Close your eyes for just a moment. Think about yesterday. Where did it go? What did you do with those 24 hours you were given? Today, I want to share a story with you. A story about a young man named Daniel who learned one of life's most important lessons. Not from a book, not from a lecture, but from a simple question that changed everything. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let me tell you about the day Daniel discovered what time is really worth. In a quiet town, there lived a young man named Daniel. He wasn't unkind or troubled, but he drifted. Mornings blurred into afternoons, and afternoons faded into evenings. He scrolled through his phone for hours, watched shows he'd forget by tomorrow, made plans he'd cancel, and set goals he'd abandon. To Daniel, time felt infinite. There was always tomorrow, always next week, always later. Daniel had an old wristwatch from his grandfather, a beautiful piece that sat forgotten in a drawer. One day, in a rare burst of motivation, he found it again. He held it up, watching the second hand tick steadily forward. Tick, tick, tick. On impulse, he decided to see what it was worth. Daniel slipped the watch into his pocket and headed into town. His first stop was a busy street corner. "Excuse me." Daniel asked a merchant, "What would you pay for this?" The man barely glanced at it. "Maybe a couple hundred." "It's old." Daniel moved on. At a pawn shop, he was offered slightly more. At an antique booth, less. Confused, he started walking home. But then, tucked between two modern storefronts, he saw a small shop he'd never noticed before. The sign read, "Time Repair." The shop was quiet except for the gentle symphony of ticking clocks. Behind a workbench sat an elderly clockmaker. Daniel approached slowly. "Excuse me," he said. "I have a question." The old man looked up with kind, patient eyes. Daniel held out the watch, but this time, he phrased his question differently. "Can you tell me," Daniel said slowly, "what the time inside this watch is worth?" The clockmaker's eyes crinkled with a smile. "My child," he said softly, "time has no price tag. You can earn money again. You can replace possessions. You can rebuild what's broken. But not a single second of your life can ever be returned." He held up the watch. "Once time passes, it belongs to yesterday. It cannot be bargained with, borrowed, or saved for later." The clockmaker gestured around his shop. "Every clock in here moves at the same speed. Rich or poor, young or old, everyone wakes up with the same gift, 24 hours. The only difference," he said, tapping the watch gently, "is how those hours are spent." Daniel felt something shift inside him. The old man handed back the watch. "This timepiece," he said, "is valuable because it reminds you that every second is moving forward. This moment will never come again." Daniel left the shop in a daze. He thought about the mornings he'd slept through, the hours he'd wasted scrolling, the dreams he'd postponed. He looked at the watch again. The second hand kept moving, steady, relentless. He couldn't get back a single second he'd wasted, but he still had this second. This moment. Right now. That evening, instead of scrolling, he made a list of what he would do tomorrow. The next morning, he didn't hit snooze. He got up. In the weeks that followed, Daniel changed. Steadily, he stopped saying later and started saying now. He stopped drifting and started choosing. "Friends, I want to speak to you directly now. Time costs nothing. You don't have to earn it. Every morning you wake up with 24 brand new hours, but time is worth everything. Because unlike money, you can't make more of it. Unlike possessions, you can't replace it. Every single second that passes is a second you'll never see again. The only choice you have is what you do with it." So let me ask you, how are you spending your hours? Are you using them intentionally or letting them drift by? Are you investing them in things that matter or wasting them on things you'll forget? I'm not saying you have to be productive every moment. Rest matters. Joy matters. But there's a difference between choosing peace and choosing numbness. You can decide right now to stop drifting. You can choose to wake up tomorrow with intention. You can choose to treat your time like the precious, irreplaceable gift it is. You don't get to choose how much time you have. None of us do. But you do get to choose how you use it. You can spend it or invest it, waste it or honor it, drift through your days or live them. Daniel carries that watch with him now, not to know what time it is, but to remember what time is worth. Every time he looks at it, he remembers the clockmaker's words. Not a single second of your life can ever be returned. And that reminder changes everything. Here's my challenge to you today. Look at the clock. Watch that second hand move. Every tick is a moment that just became yesterday. Can't save time, can't borrow it, but you can decide right now to use it differently. To live more intentionally, to choose more deliberately. Time costs nothing, but it's worth everything. And the moment you truly understand that, everything changes. Thanks for watching.